Hey everybody, this is The World According to Chris, back with another episode. And today I thought I would talk to you about the best and the worst of 2020. So I thought about having this conversation mainly because obviously 2020 is nearing the end, and a lot of times people like to do a year in review of some sorts. And I thought here today, why not just kind of share with you my actual thoughts on kind of the good and the worst parts about the year that we've had. Now, it's no stranger. There's a couple of things that we've already can kind of get out of the way, but I also want to give you some perspective on how to kind of look at some things differently, especially given what all we've gone through so far this year. So let's start out with one of the bad. Pretty obvious, the virus, the number of cases and deaths. So I will say this to anyone who's been personally impacted by this particular virus. My heart goes out to you. Those here in the TWAC community care about you and your family. One thing that obviously needs to be said is that you are having a very different experience than the rest of us who still do have our loved ones over this holiday season. No one thought that they would wake up one day without a spouse, without a loved one, without a son, without a daughter, without a niece, without a nephew, without an employee, without a coworker, right? And I think it's important that sometimes we take perspective, no matter where you may sit on the side of the virus. I would ask that maybe we should probably stop and take inventory of somebody's no longer here. There's a dinner table that will be set during Christmas that unfortunately won't have a seat that was supposed to be there. And so I think that alone, for those of you who've been impacted by it personally, just want you to know here at the community, we actually do care about you and our hearts go out to you. The good thing about 2020, this was definitely the year to work on self. You know, as much as we could complain, let me tell you right now, if you ever needed some real downtime, if you needed an opportunity to really focus on inward you and get some of that nasty, cruddy ways and behaviors and attitudes out, well, guess what? 2020 made you sit your behind down, and you had to work on that, and you had to deal with you, and you had to recognize what you have that you bring to the table every day, and it gave you that space. I think one of the craziest things that sometimes we don't give 2020 credit for is you got time. Anything that you said you didn't have time to do before, 2020 said, I'm gonna give it to you, right? And so the fact that you had time to work on self, the fact that you had time to really be able to sit down and really have some introspective moments and really think about, where could I get better, right? How can I be better, right? How am I better today than I was yesterday? What's a better way that I could approach my relationship, right? If you're in a relationship and it matters to you, this was the year to solidify that foundation. And I think it was a really dope thing that sometimes some people may have taken for granted, and it's not too late. You still have time because you still working from home like the rest of us. The second bad thing about 2020. Honestly, not seeing your loved ones. I have a mother who's unfortunately pretty ill in health, and I've had to be very careful about whether or not I go, my kids go, take my wife down to see her, because yes, we're healthy, but it's not the smartest thing in the world for her. So this was the year, unfortunately, I didn't see my mother for Thanksgiving. Unfortunately, Christmas will kind of be the same way, just because I'm more concerned about her health. And I think a lot of us are kind of in that space right now. Man, what a trying Thanksgiving, right? You're trying to go down your list of people and say, well, I can let this one come, or I can't let this one come, or did you get tested? Did you get tested, right? It's a difficult conversation to have. And I think just not being able to see, my mother has been difficult, right? Not knowing, what the future may hold, but to not be able to see her over the holidays has been difficult. I think for many of us, right, we've got family all across the country that normally, 20 years running, you guys been getting together. And unfortunately now, that's not the case, right? So I think that's definitely one of those things that was just one of the worst parts about 2020. The good thing about 2020, listen, because you've been at the house and had to sit your behind down, having the opportunity to take time to learn a new skill, oh my goodness, how much more time did you need? I mean, if you weren't really good at writing and you always wanted to write a book, you've literally had an entire year to invest in that skill. If you were wanting to get a certification in project management, or you were trying to get, a particular license, what an incredible year to have where you had time to work on just that. Why? Because you weren't going all over the place and able to make a bunch of excuses. So you had time to upskill. I mean, listen, we don't know if this time will ever come around again, meaning I don't want another virus, but I'm saying, what other time in your life would you have a really great opportunity to really upskill your personal life? I mean, I chose to upskill this year. I read more books than I ever have before. And guess what? I'm really focused on my YouTube channel. I worked on my Instagram game. I looked at brand strategy and content creation, and I started looking at how do I expand what I provide and make it something that can be seen in many different ways. How do I gain more exposure? I did the work because, again, man, what other time in life would you have to work the way 2020 gave us an abundance of nothing but something we can't get back, which is time. Number 3, the bad of 2020. The amount of fear that has gripped so many of us about this year has been pretty difficult to watch. We kind of became slave to it. It's made a lot of people crippled, meaning they just didn't want to do anything. Many people kind of got frozen in time just because of fear. The amount of fear that is in so many different areas of our life have really awakened due to this year. And I think it's an opportunity to really step back and really take a personal inventory of ourselves. And so for any of us who struggle with fear, who struggle with anxiety, who struggle with not knowing and don't like not knowing, right? Man, your sense of control totally taken away. Not that we control anything, but man, it definitely was a year where you had to come face to face with the fact that you don't control anything. I think one of the greatest things that it did was, in a bad way, was that it made many of us unwilling to hope that anything will change. We've seen so much hurt and pain and fear kind of run through the world, not just here in the United States, all over the world. The panic was daunting. It was overwhelming this year. And I think that for a year that had so many unprecedented firsts, it was just difficult to watch so many of us, including myself, have fears that were realized out loud. The fourth thing about 2020 that was good: the amount of house projects that you could have got done this year. Listen, if you were like me, man, I got a lot of house projects done. I tried to video document as many as I could, but man, got my office painted, right? Bought my equipment here, made sure that the interior of the whole house got repainted this year alone. We fixed water heaters, plumbing problems, floor issues. I mean, the amount of house projects, wow, that we were actually able to get done, crazy. Why? Because 2020 happened. That was actually a good thing. The amount of things that we wanted to do for so long that, of course, we were just basically putting off, this year, can't put them off anymore. They're right there in your face every single day. So, man, I am so grateful to have this time of year to just simply do the small things. House projects. The bad about 2020. The amount of job losses this year has been insane. For any man watching this and any woman who understands what we men go through when someone takes our ability away to earn and provide for our family, it's devastating. I think one of the things that we've got to just be mindful of and just have some empathy towards one another during this time. Losing a job is, man, it's rough. I've been through 2 corporate layoffs, been let go before from, jobs in the past. And I will tell you right now, there is nothing fun, especially as a man, when we do care about taking care of our families and somebody controls that ability to begin with, and then it's taken away from us. And I think the unique part about 2020 with that is, in any other year of our lives, if I lost a job, you know what, I can go find another one. The unique part of this year, there were no other jobs to go to. That's the hard part, right? Is that there are many of us who have lost jobs, and unfortunately, there's nothing else to go to. And as a man, to take away that ability to be able to earn from a traditional job, I don't wish that on anybody, because that's it's a mental thing for us as men, because we are built to be providers, even if it's just to ourselves as single men, right? But to be able to provide, when we talking about we got babies at the house that depend on this check, right? And this is the way I make ends meet. I don't wish job loss to anybody, man. It's very difficult to get through. Number 5, one of the good things that happened for 2020. You know what's crazy? Let me tell you what's crazy. Not only did you have time to be home and upskill, you had opportunity to start a new business. How cool is that? I mean, think about it. Again, there's no other time where you were at home more than you were this year, that you've had more margin of space and brain power to be able to say, okay, I don't have to sit in traffic to and from work because I'm working from home for some of us, right? I have time when I'm at home. If I'm working from home, that means I get to save that hour and a half of drive time or whatever it is for you, right? Which means I get to keep my energy. I've got a real shot at saying there was something I've always wanted to do or explore or start, and I really didn't get a shot before. 2020 made that a reality this year. So to all of you who decided to start a business in the middle of a global pandemic, hats off to you, because that's where success is made. Sometimes in the most craziest moments, there are opportunities. And I think that, you know, again, the fact that a global pandemic had everybody staying at home means you've had mental space now to really be able to build that business. And again, it's not too late. You can still work towards building that business, but many of us had to learn and pivot that, hey, maybe my business was typically in person. Maybe I had to turn my current business into more focus of an online platform. You had time to do that this year. And I think that was an incredible thing and a gift, honestly, that 2020 gave us. The last bad of 2020 is this. We had an election during the upswing of a virus. I mean, man, you can't talk about the amount of errors that has created, right? Social distancing was not going to be just something to try and to practice. It was going to be, no, you actually need to do this. Don't play with it. You need to do it. Again, the amount of lives that were lost due to this virus, the people who were responsible for political campaigns, and, you know, honestly, a political campaign is a lot of in-person, face-to-face work. And so the fact that we literally had an election during the same year of a virus, man, is just, it's like a boiling pot of just all wrong, right? And, you know, I wonder how, you know, history will retell this story when we're all long gone. I'm curious as to how will history retell this story, right? Will we find ourselves on the side of right by doing things the way we did? There's probably good reason that, history will say, some things we probably should have done differently or found a different way to do it instead of trying to do it the way we've always done things, right? I think this was definitely a year about new normals. If you were open, right? And if you were willing to take that idea on as something you were going to do for you and your family. And just to know that literally the election was at the same time we were on an upswing of viruses, and that it wasn't going down. It wasn't on, no, it literally kept going up, and we're having rallies. We're going here. We got people traveling there. It's just, man, it sucked. I don't know a better way to put that, to literally have elections during an upswing. Hey, thank you so much for watching this episode of the best and worst of 2020. Your source of content of all things for the growing man in you. Take care, everybody.